The current state of the labor economy puts many companies in a tough position. Employees are quitting their jobs en masse in search of work with more flexibility, namely work from home opportunities. Not everyone is convinced that remote work is the future of labor. Hey, and welcome back to my channel. About a year ago, I posted a video called "Is Remote Work Here to Stay? How can you take advantage of it?" In it, I reviewed the state of remote work coming out of the pandemic and how both employers and their employees felt about the pros and cons of the practice. Obviously, I would love for you to go back and check out that video, but like I said, it's been a year. It goes without saying that things have certainly changed and evolved since then, and the topic definitely deserves another look. So in this video, we're going to review my previous findings about remote work before we move into where we stand now, especially in the face of mass layoffs from some major tech companies, an event which I covered in detail in my last couple of videos. Check those out if you're interested in a little more background to today's video. But before we get started, as always, please consider like, subscribe, click that bell. Really means a lot. So in order to understand where the practice of remote work stands today, let's first travel back in time to a little over a year ago, May 2021. It was the height of the vaccine rollout, and many employers were beginning to think about a partial or full return to in-person operations. Background. Apple's Tim Cook drew ire when he announced the company's plan to eventually move to a 3-day in, 2-day out policy with the opportunity to be fully remote only 2 weeks out of the year. In response, Apple employees penned a letter criticizing the change, which was temporarily successful. Apple ended up delaying these plans to a later date. That date came just a few months ago when Apple again announced a return to a 3-day in-person work week. Employees would be required to come into the office on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. Once again, the response was largely negative. This time though, it resulted in a rather large blow to the company. Apple's chief of machine learning, Ian Goodfellow, announced his resignation stating, quote, "I believe strongly that more flexibility would have been the best policy for my team," end quote. However, some companies were eager to continue remote work practices. Many shifted to a flexible hybrid work model that allowed employees to work from home some or all the time. For example, Microsoft released a document entitled Hybrid Work, a guide for business leaders that detailed their plans to expand and support work-from-home employment opportunities, including putting a greater focus on employee autonomy and well-being and improving software and hardware for easier communication between staff at home and at the office. Now that some time has passed since then, we're ready for a reevaluation. We've had some major shakeups in the job economy that will undoubtedly have an effect on the future of remote work. The first is the Great Resignation. If you've been keeping up with my videos, I hope you're not sick of hearing about it yet. The Great Resignation is especially important here because it's a direct result of the freedom afforded by remote work policies. Employees are quitting their jobs en masse in search of work with more flexibility, namely work from home opportunities. The second shakeup in the labor force is the mass layoffs and even offer retractions from some major tech companies. Current world events have put even more strain on the economy, and the Federal Reserve has increased their interest rates as a result. Tech companies have found themselves with significantly less buying power than they had just only months ago and are now being forced to lay off employees in order to stay afloat. So where do we stand now? The current state of the labor economy puts many companies in a tough position. In order to attract new workers, they'll want to be as flexible as possible. Most importantly, offering some form of remote or even hybrid work policy. A lot of companies have already dealt with the upfront cost of moving to remote work policy from in-person. But the fact remains that setting up and maintaining a remote work infrastructure takes time and money. In a time where some companies have to be careful about their spending, they may not want to invest in such a major change at this point in time. Additionally, not everyone is convinced that remote work is the future of labor. Some major organizations have already begun requiring employees to return to the office, including Citigroup, BNY Mellon, American Express, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, Google, just to name a few. Last but certainly not least, Elon Musk made headlines a few weeks ago after announcing Tesla employees would have to return to work. Tesla requires 40-hour in-person work week on June 5th, 2022. Business Insider revealed an internal email from Tesla CEO Elon Musk that was sent out to all employees. It stated that they were required to work a minimum of 40 hours a week in person. Musk clarified that these hours had to be in the office where your actual colleagues are located, not some remote pseudo office, end quote. Musk concluded that if you don't show up, we will assume you have resigned. Recently, Musk had been outspoken about his mixed opinion on remote work. While he acknowledges that it was necessary in order to adapt to the pandemic, he's not sold on the long-term effectiveness of work from home policies. In fact, it appears he believes it to be detrimental to overall productivity, tweeting that all the COVID staying at home stuff has tricked people into thinking that you don't actually need to work hard, end quote. There are some who agree with Musk. Business Insider reports that PayPal co-founder Keith Rabois echoed Musk's sentiment when questioned by Protocol's Alison Levitsky. He said that he wouldn't even consider hiring employees looking for flexible or remote work, stating, "The ambitious people want to work IRL," or quote, "in real life." So to his point, there are many reports that emphasize the numerous benefits of in-person work. Studies indicate that a collaborative work environment improves employees' attitude and increases the feeling of connectedness, even among roles that don't require a significant amount of interaction and teamwork. More directly, there are simply certain roles that require in-person operations, such as the case with Tesla's manufacturing plants. In his letter to employees, he emphasized his time spent living on the Tesla plant grounds during the pandemic. Quote, "Senior employee visibility is why I lived in the factory so much, so that those on the line could see me working alongside them. If I had not done that, Tesla would long have gone bankrupt," end quote. Not everyone agrees with Musk. The general consensus is that most employees are looking for increased freedom and autonomy through remote work practices. But it's not just the workers. There are plenty of employers that disagree with Musk's assessment of remote work. Nick Gallimore of Advanced People Management told Business Insider that, quote, "The odds are stacked against Musk, with many different pieces of research suggesting that as few as 10% of people actually want to work from the office full time," end quote. Not only that, but there is also research to suggest that individual employees are up 13.5% more productive when working remotely. Many companies see the shift towards remote work and are actually going in the opposite direction of Musk. Both Twitter and Airbnb have instituted work from home forever policies, and Atlassian CEO Scott Farquhar compared Musk's comments to, quote, "something out of the 1950s," end quote. So is remote work here to stay? With more and more workers looking for flexibility, it seems likely that many companies will be doing their best to adapt their policies as much as possible to allow for remote work. But this may not be the case across the board. Some work environments, such as Tesla's manufacturing plants, require employees to be on-site to maintain peak operating capacity and deal with day-to-day maintenance. Some organizations simply operate smoother and collaborative better in person. But with that in mind, the future of remote work will, in all likelihood, depend on the needs of the company. A hybrid model seems like the most likely solution for most roles, especially as employers determine which tasks can be done remotely and what requires in-person action. Looking for remote work? So, in short, it looks like remote work is here to stay for now. Although, as Apple's Tim Cook indicated at the Time 100 Summit on June 7th, 2022, remote or hybrid work practices could look very different from how they're run today. Indeed, some companies may find that in-person operation suits them better. But with that said, if you're looking for remote work, it's still a good time to find it. But not all roles may be as permanent as others. So keep that in mind when you're looking for a remote role. Focus on roles with potential longevity and room for advancement. But as always, I recommend connecting with a recruiter like me to help you with your job search. Our experience allows us to better determine the relevancy and longevity of a role, and we can help you determine if a role is right for you. Also, remember that there are some requirements for remote work which determine your eligibility for remote work. They are a suitable workplace with minimal background noise and distractions, a fast and reliable internet connection, a powerful desktop or laptop PC, and you also want to consider if you yourself are suited for a remote role. Some people find it distracting to work at home, and many prefer to collaborate with their teammates in person. Sure, there are many benefits of working at home, but do they outweigh the potential cons? So this just about wraps up today's video on the future of remote work. Do you have anything else to add to the conversation? Do you agree with Musk's comments about work from home policies? Or do you think remote work and flexibility is the future of labor? I love hearing from you. Be sure to drop something in the comments below. If you like this video, want to see more like it, please consider like, subscribe, click that bell. Really means a lot. Feel free to also follow me at Preston_Park as I try my best to also post daily. Thanks again, and we'll see you on the next one.